Hello students, in previous lecture we have started our discussion on the components of stand-alone PV system, and in which we have completed PV array and battery. Today we will discuss about the next component, that is the charge controller. So let us start our discussion on the charge controller. It is used with the battery, and that is mostly in stand-alone PV system. Okay, and we know that battery has a strict voltage limit for optimal functioning, and the amount of current sent to the battery by the PV array and current being discharged by load, both have to be within required limit for proper functioning of the battery. We know this, and we have seen that the battery performs poorly to overcharge and over discharge condition. We have discussed this thing in detail, and moreover we have also seen that the irradiance also affect the charging and discharging of the battery. In these conditions, the direct coupling of the PV array with the load and battery is unhealthy for the battery. This means that a device is needed that interface PV system with the battery and the load. So this interfacing device is known as the charge controller. The charge controller performs many functions. So we will discuss some basic functions of it one by one. So the first function, when the sun radiations are at its peak, it means huge amount of radiations are coming to the panel board and the energy generated by it is in excess. In that case, excess energy is sent to the battery, and assume that if the battery is charged fully and PV is still connected to the battery, then it will overcharge. This will cause the capacity loss of the battery. Additionally, it may cause heating effect and many more problems may be there due to overcharging. So in that case, charge controller play an important role. Here, charge controller cut the PV power from the battery. Similarly, in winter, at low irradiance, either it is very high or it is very low. So in case of very low irradiance, when battery is heavily drawn, in that case the battery condition will be over discharged and it causes the battery life problem. So the overcharging due to excess energy due to high radiations and the over discharging causes the problem without the charge controller. In both the cases, either it is overcharge or discharge, the charge controller play an important role and it prevents the battery from overcharging by disconnecting the power flow from panel to the battery and disconnecting to the power drawn from the battery to the load during the case of an over discharge. So in both the cases, it disconnects the battery from the load and from the power source. And for optimal performance, the battery voltage of the system should be within the specified limits, and the charge controller helps in maintaining that allowed voltage range so as to ensure healthy operation of the system. So charge controller perform here two tasks. First, when solar power is in excess, charge controller prevent from the overcharging to the battery by disconnecting the power flow from PV array to the battery. Similarly, when battery is over discharged, in that condition, the charge controller cut the power flow from battery to the load. During over discharge, the controller cut the power flow from battery to the load. So in both the cases, charge controller is required to protect the battery from over discharging and overcharging. It ensures the healthy operation of the battery. Additionally, as we have seen, maximum power point voltage at different levels based on temperature and irradiance conditions. Therefore, charge controller needs to do an appropriate voltage regulation to ensure the battery operation in its specified voltage range. Okay, so charge controller can be integrated with MP maximum power point tracking in its design. And to ensure the battery operation in its specified voltage range, the charge controller can be integrated with maximum power point tracker in its design. And due to this, the charge controller can be integrated with maximum power point tracker in its design. The charge controller also performs the current regulation. And with proper current regulation, the charge controller is able to control the C rate of the battery. And the charge controller can impose the limit on the maximum allowable current flowing into and from the battery. It becomes possible by the use of the blocking diode that is implemented in charge controller. Blocking diodes are used to prevent the back discharge of the battery through the PV array. This function is also integrated these days in charge controller. In series charge controller, the PV array is cut out until a particular voltage drop is detected, and on the other hand, in shunt controller, overcharging is prevented by shorting the PV array. It means the PV modules work in short circuit mode and no current flowing in the battery. The next function that can be performed by the charge controller, it has inbuilt temperature sensor. So it senses the temperature fluctuations and dynamically decide how electrical parameter should change with temperature. It keeps the battery successfully operating in the desired range of voltages depending on the temperature. So for this reason, the charge controller is usually kept close to the battery. So one sentence we can write regarding this point: the charge controller senses the temperature fluctuations and decide how electrical parameter changes. In electrical parameter. Okay. Thus, the charge controller can go a long way in increasing lifespan of the battery by ensuring healthy battery operation in most conditions, and the charge controller now become a very important part of PV system. So these all are about the charge controller. After the detailed discussion on off-grid PV system, let us have look on grid-connected PV system. In it, distribution panel and grid-connected inverter are additional part that is placed in balance of the system. And the grid and loads are connected through distribution panel. In this system, the grid-connected inverter is backbone. It is the inverter responsible for not only supplying power to the grid as a current source, but also tracking the grid voltage and frequency. The load and grid are connected through distribution panel, and the interaction with the grid is in two ways. Okay, while interaction with the load is unidirectional. Net metering is used in the PV system of grid connected type. This is net metering, and it is nothing but two-way power measuring instrument. It measures not only power consumed by the load, means it is not only measuring the power that is distributed from the grid to the load. However, it measures the power that is fed to the grid as well. Consider that the PV array is not able to generate the power to feed the load sufficiently. Then in that case, the power requirement of the load can be fulfilled from the grid, and when it is generating more power from the load requirement, then excess power is fed to the grid. In that case, the system can have tie-up with the grid in power metering. And all the individual parts of the system we have already discussed, so no need to repeat them. Now next that is important to discuss at this stage is the concept of the efficiency of the system. So we can write efficiency of system. This is our PV array, and the radiations that are coming here, for example, have 1 kilowatt per square meter power density, and this power that is generated, that is coming, and after generation the output power is fed to the inverter, and from inverter it is fed to the load. So in these, every stages has its efficiency, and every stage reduce the efficiency of the full system. Let us see how. At output, we know the efficiency of the panel is, we can assume approximately 20%. It means the power that we have here, we can get only 20% of it. So at the input of the transmission system or distribution system here, it will be 200 watt per square meter. And if we assume the cabling losses, we can consider almost 2% cable loss. So if 2% loss will be there, then efficiency will be 98%, and if we will have 98% of it, then the power available at inverter will be, P in of inverter will be how much? P in of inverter, it will be 196 watt per square meter, and inverter itself has low efficiency, 100% is not possible, so we can consider it has efficiency around 90 to 95. Consider one value, efficiency of inverter is 95%. Okay, and if efficiency of inverter is 95%, then the 95% of it will be available to the load. If we assume the distribution losses and distribution panel has minimum negligible loss, so in that case 95% of 196, it may give 10 watt reduction almost. So we can say 186 watt per square meter. So the output of inverter has this much power. Assuming losses exchange at distribution panel and cable carrying AC power is negligible, in that case if we say efficiency of the system, then that is nothing. The output power of the inverter that is available to the load, that is 186. Okay, we can write watt per square meter divided by the input power to the system, that is irradiance power. This is, and it can be 18.6% is the efficiency of the system. So in this way we can say the efficiency of the system is around this, and from here we find that efficiency is just multiplication of efficiency of the PV system, PV array, multiplied with efficiency of the cabling and multiplied with efficiency of the inverter, assuming after that negligible losses. So this is the total efficiency of the system that we can have in case of PV system. In next turn we will take an example to design the PV system for any particular load.